That's what I would call this if I wasn't doing the 1/2 inch setback. I would call this one and done. You drill one hole here and you bolt it on. One and done. Oh, these motor mounts are looking pretty sexy. The motor mount on the 5.3 LS truck motor has 4 bolts to the block, and the old style that I'm using for the classic car, it has 3 bolts. So I'm either going to have to build an adapter plate or do some custom stuff there. I had an idea to drill holes in the old style one and just bolt it on with these 2 here. You can almost read it now. So this is the area where the engine mount bolts on to the Gen 3 small block, and this is the old school small block, like what the Firebird would have had, the V8 Firebirds would have had originally, the clamshell they call it. So what I'm thinking is take this bottom bolt here and line it up pretty darn close there, and maybe drill a hole for the top bolt, maybe. So there's 2 bolts at the bottom on the 5.3 and 2 at the top, and the motor mount adapter plates that you can buy, they locate it here, or 1 inch setback, which is 1 inch ahead, so that way the engine, the mount comes ahead, so the engine goes back, so you can get 1 inch setback or 1/2 inch setback or whatever, or you can get them like this, and it's a 4 bolt plate that you bolt this to. So there's only 1 bolt that goes through this way that holds it in, so I figure 2 this way should be good. And I've only got 1 in there right now. It's not even tight. I just finger tightened it on there, and it's pretty secure. So I think I'll put 2 bolts in it, but I'm probably gonna slot them, elongate the holes a little bit, so that way I can do like a 1/2 inch setback. I don't think I can do 1 inch because I want to stay close to the center here of the clamshell. So since I'm only using 2 bolts, so I might just slot it maybe 1/2 inch, and I'll go a 1/2 inch setback maybe. That should be fine because I'm using the truck oil pan, which has more clearance than the F-body oil pan as far as head and back to your K-member subframe. So I'll probably start by drilling a hole up here, find out the measurement from hole to hole. Okay, I measured the height from top to bottom on the LS motor on the 5.3, and it's 3 and I think it's 3 1/16. So then I measured these ones here, and they seem to be 3 1/8. Yeah, these ones seem to be. Oh, maybe it's 3 1/16. I've got it on the 1 inch mark here, so I'm ending up at 4 1/8 or 1/16. I don't know. My yellow line is not exactly precise, that's for sure. I think they're pretty much the same height, the factory bolt pattern. They're pretty darn close. If there is any difference, it's only a 1/16 of an inch. So now I need to drill one in the in the center point there, depending on where you want to locate it, like if you want to locate it 1 inch setback, you might want to drill your hole like maybe 1 inch back, depending on which side this is. So I'm not sure if these are the right mounts for my application or not, but I'm going to practice on them. These are GM car mounts, clamshells, but I heard that the F-body, the passenger side is taller than the driver's side, so I might have to change one of these, or I might have to change them, but I'm going to practice on them anyway. I'm pretty sure these are the same mounts I used on my last swap. So they have a little indentation here, but if you don't use the plate, like I'm not using a plate, I'm just going to drill a hole and put 2 bolts into it. So if you're not using a plate, you don't have to worry about the indentation at all, because the engine has a recess there for it. So if you're going to do 1 inch setback, drill your hole accordingly, depending on which side your mount is on, and etc. So I think I'm going to do like a 1/2 inch setback, and you gotta make sure you have accommodation down here too, like make sure your plate is nice and flat if you're gonna, depending on where you're gonna go with it. So these are, you can buy adapter plates that locate it in the same place as this center bolt here, but I figure why not just drill a hole. So I'm gonna try that. I think I'm gonna go about 1/2 inch setback, but I can always ream that one out, because even if I go 1/2 inch, I think those holes are probably gonna end up conjoined anyway, so we'll see. Alright, I made some sloppy measurements, and if you want motor mount plates that look like this, then you would be the same as putting them right here in the center. But if you want them set back like this, then you would have to, I'm going to drill mine 1/2 inch setback. There's a little bit of a curve that starts here, so just for the head of my bolt, I don't want to go too far back, and for the center point there, I'm going to keep it close to the center point. So I'm just going to go 1/2 inch back, give or take, and try that. Oh my goodness, there it is. You can see my bottom measurements aren't precise. This one looks like it's a little bit closer than that one, or maybe this hole is a little bit bigger, because I didn't even measure, I just started boring it out. So if I need more wiggle room, I'll just bore it out more. But that looks alright. Try that. I really wish these were painted. See if I can turn it on its side. Stay. Anyway, turn it on its side and show you. They sit on there, and just one bolt goes through there, goes through the middle, one big long bolt. So these will have to be cleaned up and painted, these clamshells, if I use these ones. But this half goes on the engine, and this half goes on the car. Bada bing, bada boom. One big bolt goes through there. Use my homemade alignment tool here, maybe. Like I said, these are rubber, so you don't need to. There's a little bit of tolerance in the rubber, so anyway, yeah, try that. There she is. Got her on there with 2 bolts. And yeah, the other 2 are here. Those 2 are there. One big one goes through the middle. That's about that's about 1/2 inch setback right there. And I think they're pretty good. A little bit rusty, but I think they'll clean up. Over here on the passenger side, you're gonna find the air conditioning mounts down here. The air conditioning mounts are down here on the bottom on the passenger side. So same with adapter plates, you have to either notch the clamshell or grind that air conditioning boss down, or grind it off, or some people cut them off, whatever. I think I'll probably notch this one because it don't need much. Got a little bit of wiggle room here right now, but it looks like you just need a tiny bit. They go sort of on a downward angle a little bit, so I think you just need a tiny bit there. Try that. So I'm going to try that. It seems pretty solid. I can always elongate the holes if I wanted to and make it like semi-adjustable, or waller the holes out if I need any wiggle room there. Try that. See how that works. I need to finish cleaning up this engine, but it's so bad that I decided just to do one side at a time, because you get so much work just to clean it all. This is so dirty. So I'll probably take this back off and maybe do some more paint. But yeah, I think this is gonna work. I think that's gonna work fine. I have to paint those too. Get some junkyard mounts for the budget swap. If you're going from a small block like a 305 or something to a 5.3, these are free. You just take your old mounts. These will be the same as your old 305 mounts or 350 or whatever. I think 4.3 uses these also. So you just take your old mounts and they'll be just like this. If you're going from a small block Chevy to a 5.3 or 6 liter or 4.8, you'll have these. So this will be essentially free, these mounts, if you have an old small block laying around. Or you might be able to find them cheap at the junkyard. I started washing some of this undercoating, some of this black undercoating stuff. Started washing some of it off, and I think I got most of it off, but I still got a lot more because I want to paint the subframe, and I can't paint it if it's all covered in grease. So I've been spending hours trying to degrease it. And I relocated that brake line. I just bent it out of the way for now. I'm gonna end up replacing it here pretty soon. Auto Parts is closed for the Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend, so I have to wait for brake lines. And what else did I do? Yeah, I cut the V6 mounts off, moved the brake line, washed off a bunch of the undercoating. It was just caked on the frame rails and strut towers. Some of it turned out pretty good, but there's a few spots where the paint's peeled off. A lot of the dark spots, a lot of it is just undercoating, but there's a couple of spots where there's rust, so the paint's just coming off. There's no holes, I don't think, so I'll just have to repaint it, clean it up and repaint it. Brake lines and fuel lines are kind of rusty, so I'll probably change all of them. so they're about within half an inch from the factory flywheel and bell housing location, hopefully. So yeah, they're homemade. I drilled a hole pretty much dead center of the top row, in line with the top row there. I was gonna do them dead center, but I decided half-inch setback, so the mount goes half-inch ahead and the engine goes half-inch back, so the hole for the engine goes half-inch back. So they're pretty solid. I don't think I have them torqued down right now, but I'm just seeing how they're gonna work, trying them out. I think they're gonna be good. They're pretty thick steel and pretty good bolts, good size metric bolts. Well, I got one coat on 3 sides. So I just did the left side, the front side, and the passenger right side. Weather is supposed to be warmer tomorrow, so I'll lay down one more coat on here, and I'll paint the motor mounts, the engine mounts also. Well, I'll put one coat of rust transformer and one coat of semi-gloss black on there. Some spots are a little bit sort of pitted, but you won't see that when the motor mount goes on. Everything's coming together now. All the hard part, like the prep work, cleaning and degreasing and getting all the rust off, that took me a couple days in my spare time. But the painting, it just, as soon as you start painting and get it clean, it just all comes together quickly. I painted the rubber half, the rubber side of the motor mounts. Sounds like thunder. Hope it doesn't rain. Last time I bought these, they came painted. I don't know why these ones, I don't know why they didn't come painted, but I'm going to put some paint on them. I sprayed them with degreaser first, in case they were oily, and then put the paint on. Wrinkle finish texture coating, high temperature. I was going to put this on the intake manifold, or one of the intake manifolds, maybe the valve covers, but for now I'm just going to paint these bolts. Well, I got the clamshells all painted up. Nice. And let me tell you about that Tremclad though. That Tremclad puts a nice shiny finish on. Anyway, Tremclad takes a while to dry, but it goes on nice and thick and dries nice and shiny. That's only the satin, that's not even the gloss. That's only semi-gloss. So anyway, got my mounts ready, painted up. Painted the head of the bolt with that high temperature wrinkle paint. good to go. If I wasn't doing the 1/2 inch setback, I would just, there's already one hole here, so I would just drill one up here at the appropriate height. I think it was 3 1/8, or no, 4 1/8. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, in line with these two. So you drill one here and done, one and done. So that's what I would call this if I wasn't doing the 1/2 inch setback. I would call this one and done. You drill one hole here and you bolt it on. One and done. But I'm doing a 1/2 inch setback, so I had to drill another hole here, and instead of putting it in the center, I just go 1/2 inch. Put the final coat on these chassis mounts, or the rubber half of the engine mounts. So I'm just going to let them dry. They can be bolted on in any temperature, but they have to be painted on a warm day like today. Oh, these motor mounts are looking pretty sexy. So there's 4 bolts in the LS series block. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm only using the front 2, and that's it. And I'm going for a 1/2 inch setback here, so I drilled another hole a little bit off center. But if you're not doing any setback, you can just drill one hole in the top, and that's it. And the passenger side has to be notched. Even if you buy the setback plates, it has to be notched there for the air conditioning. So I notched that, just an old school clamshell, and I drilled 2 holes because I was setting it back. So I'm actually moving the mount ahead to set the engine back. Other than that, if you're not setting it back, like I said, you just drill one hole up here and one and done. I am going for an overall 1 inch setback to put my bell housing in the stock location. So I'll show you how I'll do that. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch setback here. The reason why I do that is because the shape of the clamshell here, I can only go back about 1/2 inch before it starts to change shape. So I'd do 1/2 inch here, plus I want it just to be close to center, like stay on center, or pretty damn close to center, because I'm using 2 bolts here. So I'll do 1/2 inch here, and I'll do another 1/2 inch on the chassis. This is where the rubber mount goes on the chassis, and I degreased this cross member yesterday and painted it with some trim clad. It's a little bit bumpy and pitted there, but oh well. You probably won't notice that when I get the mounts on. So the mounts usually go in those the most top forward for the V8. So I might move them back like maybe 1/2 inch, so either slot the holes back or drill 1/2 inch back. I'll probably drill 1/2 inch back to begin with. Okay, I drew a line between the factory mounts, or the factory mount bolts, and then I measured back 1/2 inch, or not quite 1/2 inch, about 3/8 on each side, maybe a little better than 3/8 on each side, between 3/8 and 1/2 inch. Measured back, drilled a tiny pilot hole, about a 1/4 inch pilot hole, and then I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna slowly bore them out, the new ones, and try to get them to be at least 3/8 of an inch. There's actually a wide set of holes and a narrow set, and this can go on left or right, it doesn't matter, as long as the wide ones are at the top. Put the wide set of bolts at the top and the narrow set at the bottom. Okay, I set her in there, 3/8 bolts. I'm just going to make sure that it's close to centered. Put a dot in the middle of each hole. I only need one. Can't remember which one it is now, but there they are. set back 1/2 inch. Homemade 1/2 inch setback. So with 1/2 inch setback on here and 1/2 inch on the car, that gives me a total of 1 inch setback. If you're not going setback, it's really simple. All you got to do is drill 1 hole in the clamshell, 1 and done. And you're going to want to mount to the front 2 holes of the block. You got the back 2 here and the front 2. You're going to want to use the front 2. And there's only 1 bolt that holds the clamshell to the car, to the rubber mount.